The most I made on a deal was a little north of a 750,000.
Dude. What's up, guys? Today we have special guest Ikaika Ing. Ikaika is one of Hawaii's biggest flippers. He's made millions of dollars flipping houses here in Hawaii. Local guy, humble, he surfs, but just crushing it in all areas of life. And so you guys in for a real treat today. Just welcome to the show, bro.
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks for having me. Appreciate the kind words and excited to be here.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I've been watching you from afar a little bit, just seeing I just kind of found out about you relatively recently. I know you're not huge on social media or anything, but behind the scenes, you've just been like killing it on the flipping sides. How many flips have you done so far?
So to date, I think I'm working on number 94, and I think we have 89 sold.
Crazy, dude. I love it. I mean,
appreciate it, man.
And how long have you been in the real estate investing game?
I've been investing for almost 12 years now. Okay. I started in 2012. Started slow, so a lot of you guys who have come in, crush it. Seems like right when you guys come into the game. So, for the first 6 years, I was doing maybe a handful of properties a year, and it took me a while to kind of start gearing up to. Yeah.
I feel like it was like a different world back then, maybe like 10 or 12 years ago, when just the world in general, like before kind of the advent of social media or the popularity of social media. So when you first started, like how did you know where to begin as far as like investing? Was there a course or you read some books? How did you get started in the very beginning?
In the very, very beginning, there was. I don't even know if social media was around back then.
I feel like it's only been around for like 5 years, 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, there was maybe Facebook, but there definitely wasn't Instagram
MySpace,
at that time. Yeah. But yeah, at that time they had like 1 or 2 TV shows that was on flipping, and then I had read a couple books. The TV shows had kind of piqued my interest a little bit. I had a rental property at the time, and I was kind of getting tired of self-managing it and looking for renters. So I was like, you know what? Let me sell this property and see what the flipping thing's all about.
So you sold your rental for some cash so you could like buy a project to kind of flip?
Yeah.
Okay.
And, there wasn't a lot of information back then. And there wasn't social media kind of with gurus or self-help
no
guys.
Courses, no programs or anything where you can learn things.
Yeah, so I kind of just jumped in and jumped into the fire and learned as I went. Eventually, after I think I did maybe my 4th flip, I had joined with Fortune Builders. Okay,
so that's like a coaching program.
So it was a coaching program, yeah.
How did your first flip go? Was it, did you make money? Did you lose money?
First flip, in my mind, it went pretty well. I think I made $15,000 on it. It was a condo. It's all I could have afforded at the time. And, it basically, I put all my money I could into it. I made $15,000, and I think I had just bought a car at that time for $15,000. So I was like, sweet, I just paid off my car, and
it's crazy to kind of hear that story now, just because of how far you've come, and now that you've made millions, but it's kind of speaks to just humble beginnings, where the first deal was like it wasn't life changing, but kind of just sparked and started the process. Like, hey, I can do this.
Yeah. Looking back at it, it's a deal I would never take today. But at that time, I was like, you know what? If I make 10,000, that's awesome. It was more, I was doing it as a side income to my job that I had at the time.
And I think sometimes they see like how much money some of these deals are making, and they think like that has to be the norm. Like everybody has to make 100,000. So they just think like, if I don't make 100,000, then like I don't want to do the deal. But there's something to be said about in the beginning, especially of just taking like more of the humble or the base hit deals. And as long as you're positive and you're learning and you're kind of going through the process, like you don't have to hit like 100,000 on your first deal, right?
Yeah. And especially back then, it wasn't the norm to hit 100,000. Like the people who were flipping were lucky to get 50,000. That was a good deal. I think it was my 3rd or 4th deal. I made, I think it was 160,000 on that deal, and I was like over the moon. I was like, oh my God, I'll never be able to find a deal like this again in my life. And little do you know, like down the road, that's kind of what everybody is looking for.
What would you say your average profit margin is nowadays?
Nowadays, that's probably what I'm looking for as an average. Is like 150, and it's also a buffer too. It'll oftentimes drop below that, and sometimes you get a lucky surprise and it goes way above.
Average projected profit today is like $150,000.
Yeah,
so I mean, to me that's crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Like when I was a W-2 worker, it was like, dude, 80,000 was like, I was just trying to get to the 100 for like one whole year. Like, you know, which it's super crazy. So what's like the most you've ever made on a deal?
The most I made on a deal was a little north of $750,000.
Dude. That's insane. $760,000 on one deal.
On one deal,
dude. Break it down for us. I got to hear about this.
So it was an off-market deal. It was the house. It was an old house, original. I think it was, if I can remember, it was like a 1940s build, multi-level, potential to be a multi-generation.
What part of the island was it in?
Makiki Heights.
Okay, Makiki Heights. Yeah.
So in that area, there's a lot of high-end homes around there. A realtor who I work with quite a bit had brought it to me, and we walked the deal, and it was one of those that, you know, there was literal trees growing out of the gutter. There was two.
It was like abandoned for like a long period of time. So
there was someone. So there's this unit in the garage downstairs that someone was living in, but the main house hadn't been lived in for a while.
Oh wow. Okay.
And literally like 6-foot trees growing out of the rain gutters. I never really seen anything like that.
Do you have pictures?
I do. Yeah.
No, you guys show it to me later.
There was a couple mango trees that were hanging over the entire roof line. So the backyard was, you couldn't even see it. You know, they had a rodent problem, termite issues, you know.
Okay, yeah. So like basically a completely like just trash property over here in Makiki Heights.
And the layout was super funky. And it was that old style where the kitchens were hidden,
closed
basically.
Off,
yeah. So and it had an amazing view. So we actually changed the old kitchen into a bedroom, and then moved the kitchen out so where it faced the view. You know, open concept with the living room.
I feel like as a flipper or as an investor, like there's certain things you can change and certain things you can't change, right?
Yeah,
so like
for sure.
You can't change location, you can't change neighborhood, you can't change the view, but you can highlight the views, right? Because the way that you structure like the openings in the house or the windows or where you face them, you can highlight the views.
Yeah.
And then like you can't change. I mean, like you can change the layouts, right? So I think a lot of these houses where there are these funky like weird layouts where everything is super tight, or like the hallways are super narrow, or the kitchen is really closed off. Like we add a lot of value as investors where we can take this like weird layout and turn it into like an open concept, like beautiful house, right?
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I love to do the most is, you know, come into these spaces where oftentimes the space isn't utilized properly, or they're wasting space, or there's just spaces that are square footage, but it's not square footage that is a benefit to the current living situation, and rework those spaces and make them into something that's to today's standard and what people are looking for and desirable, and using every last square foot that you have and making it, you know, something that people will want to spend, you know, more money for.
I mean, so like you're looking at this house as trash. Like what number deal is this for you?
That deal?
Yeah, that one.
So this was in 2021, I believe.
So kind of recently. Okay.
When the market was super hot. So I mean that also helped. Too, where everything was going 200-300 over asking. So this was probably deal like 70.
Okay. So maybe 60. You had a budget experience before you jumped into this. Yeah. So what did you guys end up buying it for?
So we ended up buying it for 1.2.
1.2. Okay. Yeah. And then hard money. How'd you guys fund it?
Hard money.
Okay, hard money.
And then, you know, we private funded the
gap.
The gap fund.
Okay. And then what sounds like a massive renovation for this guy?
So for this one, I think we had put 350 or 375.
Okay, yeah. So it's
a big house.
Pretty substantial renovation.
It is a substantial renovation, yeah.
And then what did you guys end up selling for this guy for?
We ended up selling it 2.4.
Dude, I love it. I mean, like this. Whenever, I mean, like, I love stories where people make a lot of money, but I also like stories where people lose a lot of money. It's interesting, you know, like it's like the fun stories. And so, were there any, like, when you're walking into a house like this that's like totally like demolished and destroyed, what's like your thought process on like how you're gonna change it? What are you thinking as soon as you step into the house?
So first thing I look at is, well, before I get in there, foundation, because that's going to be one of your biggest expenses.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, you want to see if the foundation is solid or if it's not, you got to budget that in there.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that can make or break you on a
Yeah,
lot
yeah.
of deals.
I mean, that could be like 6 figures easily plus, right?
Easy.
Depending on the
Yeah.
on the.
But other than the outside stuff, inside, I like to look at the layout, and then if it is a funky layout, if it's reworkable, because sometimes the layouts just how they are, there's no space or there's no real way to rework it, or if there's too many load bearing walls or whatnot that it can't really be reworked.
Yeah.
But most of the time you can.
Yeah.
And I can pretty quickly have a vision of what I want to do with the house. And
is it from like just years of experience, or how did you? Because like now you're like number 94, which is crazy. But then like when you're first starting, like did you have like the same eye, or did you have like was it more of a challenge to kind of figure those kind of things out?
I've definitely developed that over the years. I mean, I want to say I had some sort of eye when I first started, but I didn't. My knowledge, I have no background in construction.
Okay, so no construction knowledge, like
no real estate background. So I've developed that over time, and of knowledge of how things can be moved, plumbing, electrical, walls, those type of things. You got to develop that to know what is possible. But
how long do you think it took from like the beginning when you first started to where you feel comfortable just understanding all the different parts of like the renovation?
It probably took me at least 4 years.
Okay.
To be comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, because you're learning through the process, right? You're like, and part of the beginning, I feel like there's a lot of mistakes, right? So like but you learn from those mistakes and you get better and better over time. But like, so maybe like, 4 years until you're kind of like the skill set of, okay, I know where things can go, what I can move and what I can't touch.
Yeah. So, I mean, even today, you learn from every single project you do. Yeah. I still don't know everything, and I'm still learning every single job. And you take tidbits from every job and try to make the next one better. You make mistakes on every job, and you try to learn from those mistakes and make improvements on the next one.
It's crazy. I mean, I feel like a lot of times, or at least for myself too, is I feel like I feel like at certain times where I feel like I'm an experienced investor, where like I kind of know mostly everything, but I swear like every project I always learn something new, and like it's crazy that like you're a number 94, you're still learning something new to this day.
And you think exactly, I kind of know what I'm doing, I'm experienced at this point, and then you come across something that you screwed up, and like, but that it helps you learn from it. And, and there's not a single job that goes by that I don't learn something new on. And it'll probably be like that until 200. You can never know everything.
That's true. Oh, one thing that does really help though is like having an experienced guy like yourself kind of take a look at our project, right? Where I'm kind of brand new starting out. I don't know what to look for or what to like kind of watch out for. If I say like, hey, Kaiko, can you help me or walk me through this beginning? Then like, because of your 94 deals completed or you're doing, then like when you look at the project, you'll see so much more than I was like a newer investor who's kind of just getting started on the journey.
For sure. And as a new person, and I do JV with some new people sometimes, or bring on, and they're kind of just swimming and all whatever is happening, and it definitely helps that to have a set of eyes of someone who knows what they're doing to kind of help you avoid some mistakes and catch things. And even some of the project managers I bring on, they may be referred to me from other people or friends, and I kind of got to walk them through the process and that stuff too. So it's for sure helpful to have.
How many project managers do you guys have on the team right now?
Currently I have between 3 and 4.
Okay.
So we kind of move them in and out.
Yeah. What's like do you guys train them? Do they come trained? What's like the process for becoming a project manager for you guys?
It's a little of both. We try to have some guys that have experience and know what they're doing, but I also like to bring on people that I can kind of mold to work, and because someone who's stuck in their ways may not
take kindly to something like that.
Want to do it their way.
Yeah.
So I kind of want people to do it how I like it.
Yeah, because I mean, you kind of have like your system and your success. Not to say it's the best way. There's
True.
other people are doing it different ways and they're having success, but it's your kind of like your project or your thing. So you want to have it done your way, right?
Exactly.
So, But I mean, like also like when you're bringing on these guys, like, are you looking for like any specific character traits or things like, what are you looking for like a team member?
For team members, I like people who, for one, they're hardworking.
Okay. How can you tell if somebody is hardworking or not?
You throw them into a project and then you find out pretty quickly. So if you don't get calls anymore to project manage for me, you probably weren't hardworking. So I mean, they're on the job site, you know, doing stuff that I'm not even telling them to do. So
kind of going above and beyond, figuring things out and making their own like task list and everything.
Yeah, we have the crews doing their work, and if you're sitting on there looking at Instagram all day while they're working, and if they ask you a question, that's when you pop up. You probably won't be doing too many jobs after that. So if they're always doing something, staying busy. Even if there's nothing to do, there's always debris, dust everywhere that can be swept up, or
You know what? I think when I was like younger in high school, I was working at like a Simon shop in the kitchen, and then like whenever like you have to cook all the food and everything, right? And then when you're done, then I just like to just relax and do nothing. But then the lady in charge, you're like, what are you doing? Like if you're not cooking and cleaning, so like no matter what, the whole shift, you're either like kind of either like cleaning or cooking, or you're never like not busy because there's always something to do. But it was a lesson I learned when I was younger, just like to just always be like. So I feel like it's kind of partly ingrained, where like if you're a project manager or even an investor, like there's always more to do. It's just a matter of, so you never want to just kind of be lazy when you're on the job, right?
For sure. Yeah.
So you guys sold this project. You made $760,000, which is insane. Like, what were you feeling, and what did you do with the money afterwards?
I'm not really like a flashy or extravagant guy, so I pretty much just reinvested back into the business and buy more properties.
I feel like I would have taken that. I would have been something that's. I think I'm like bad like management of like profit. Sometimes I spend stupid things, so I think I would have bought something stupid. I think if I made that much on a deal.
Yeah. The market was so hot at that time. There wasn't even time to like think about going on a trip. Or,
I mean, there's so much opportunity, right?
Yeah,
so
I was like, okay, let's find the next one, find the next one, and
it's kind of. I feel like it's in there's always like market cycles where sometimes when the market is a little dry, I feel like we're in like a slightly drier season now. Right. Not completely dry, but like a little drier.
Yeah.
But then like that 2021 COVID, like even for us, like. You could do no wrong. Like you buy like over ask and you sell it way over ask. It was just a crazy market to be in during that time. But I feel like whenever you have those markets, you want to capitalize on the opportunity. And so even, as an investor, like there's so like few times when there's a ton of opportunity that's available, because like you're always looking for like where's the opportunity. But when you find one, you want to put all your time and energy into that to maximize that opportunity, right?
For sure. Because I've been in the business long enough to see the cycles, and what goes up must come down, as they say, and there's going to be super hot markets, and then the market's going to cool, it'll come up and down, and you definitely want to capitalize on the hot markets, but on the other hand of that, you never know when the market's going to change, and I think you spoke on it. You have a lot of wins, but sometimes you have losses as well too, and the losses that I have occurred on is in those situations
when you're buying like a lot and
when you're buying a lot and the market suddenly changes and you get stuck on purchasing at one price and thinking your ARV is this, and then it changes, or buyers cool down, or stuff starts sitting. And
have you guys ever lost money on a deal?
We have. So I mean, there's definitely a handful of deals.
What's the biggest loss you guys have ever taken?
So unfortunately, the biggest loss was a little over 400,000.
Damn. that deserves a little like. I mean, like for me, like it's. I love when people make a lot of money. It's very exciting. Yeah. But I'm more inspired when people take a big loss and they're still going. Like so like people, there's like, so for most people, if you take a $400,000 loss, dude, like your life is over. Like that's like your retirement. Like you're out of luck, But because like you can take a $400,000 loss and still like be flourishing. To me, like I love that, like.
Had that happen early in my career, I'd be done.
That's the scary part is because Hawaii is such a high price point market. I've met a few investors where their first deal was their last deal because they took a big loss as their first deal and they didn't have the reserves or like the opportunity to kind of recover from it. So like, I think it's important when you're first starting to just make sure you're a little bit more conservative on the very beginning, just to make sure that you don't take any big losses. Yeah,
for sure. And I still have that as a philosophy today. I try to be extra conservative on all my numbers, and it's okay if I don't get the deal because there's other ones that you can find. And
what's kind of crazy or kind of sucks is like, so I'm like naturally more conservative. So like all my deals, I was very conservative when I started. And then like there was a bunch of deals during the COVID craziness that people were buying. I was like, that's a bad price to buy it. They bought like 200 over like what I would pay for it.
Yeah.
I was like, guaranteed they're gonna lose money. And then they made like $150,000. I was like, this is crazy. And so I was like, man, like maybe I need to rethink my strategy because like let's just like buy more deals and then like if the market turns or whatever, like we'll see what happens. And so sadly we decided like let's try to get a little more aggressive on our numbers. We bought a couple bad deals and we ended up losing money on them. But I think it's just learning lessons, like you can't count on the market to kind of save you.
Yeah, and I've had that exact same experience. So I mean, some of the deals I passed on, then I kind of tracked it a little bit. And like,
wow,
I'm like, oh, they actually made money on it. And then I did the same, that one that I lost 400,000 on. And I was like, the market's hot right now,
But how do you lose $400,000 on a deal? Like walk us through that.
So, I mean, this one was a super unique property.
Okay.
There was no comps for it.
Okay. That's always a challenge.
So that was part of the problem right there. So there's two huge houses on this property.
Okay.
There was a natural waterfall, a natural pond on it. So that alone, I believe I was told that was the only like natural freshwater pond that is owned by privately owned.
Was it on Oahu?
On Oahu,
okay.
Yeah, in Kaneohe. So it was a beautiful and unique property. And I was like, I was kind of comping it as what would I sell these houses for individually, and then adding it together, which I already made a mistake.
Were they separate? Were they like CPR, or were they separate already? Or?
They weren't already separated. And then midway, the original plan was the CPR, then I sell them separately, but it would have been tough either way because it actually shared a driveway with a neighbor. So this was another reason it failed. So it had to share a driveway with a hoarder.
Okay.
And I thought people would be able to overlook that because the property was so unique and cool, but it didn't get overlooked.
It's crazy how important your neighbor is when you're studying the resale value. We had a property too, like that we took one of the losses on, and it was like partly that was like I was like, people don't care that much about the neighbors, like but then like so it was a pretty good neighborhood, but the neighbors were like corridors and like it was like they had parked all their cars like they took like all the street parking and stuff, and so like I think that really affected like the resale or the buyer pool. The big thing is like how big is your buyer pool or demand. So I think like having neighbors who are like maybe not upkeeping or like their stuff is kind of trash, like it definitely does hurt the value of your property.
Yeah. So that's one of those hard lessons that you learn along the way is even though the house is awesome, that's one of the things you can't change, right? Is your neighbors. And it's a humongous factor. And it's one of those lessons that you got to learn, and you always got to factor in.
In retrospect, too, I think if I'm like buying a house, I think that would factor into my decision making. But like you don't think of it like when you're flipping, you're just thinking like the numbers, like okay, like just like analyzing on the spreadsheet, right? You're not analyzing all the little subtle details until you have a little bit more experience, or you had some painful losses where you actually had to feel it.
Right. Yeah. If you take a step back from the numbers and you think of it as a buyer yourself. I mean, do you want to live next to that? And you kind of always got to put yourself in those shoes too when you're buying. Yeah.
That's a good point. So you guys bought it, and then a few challenges. Was it like one big mistake, or was it like a few things that happened? How did it come out to like $400 negative?
So, I mean, we had purchased that property for, I believe it was 2.1. So,
so 2.1 million.
So it had a heavy holding cost on it.
Okay. What was your monthly holding cost for this guy?
So I think our interest payment was a little over 13, and then we got taxes and electricity and all the other fun stuff. And then we had our private money on that. So I think that was another 4,000. So
about $20,000 a month in holding costs. Okay, yeah.
So when we went to sell, the interest rates, that's when the interest rates had just gone up.
Okay.
So the property no longer made sense for an investor. So it was going into it, we could sell to as a multifamily, which it would have been awesome for like 2 families to live in.
Yeah.
Or it could have been something that a investor could buy and rent both out, or even potentially Airbnb. And then the Airbnb thing got cracked down on was one thing, and then the interest rates went up. So it pretty much knocked out any investor buyers out of it. So we were at that point stuck looking for a true multifamily or someone who wanted to live in one and rent out the other, which kind of killed our buyer pool. And you know, we're priced at a little bit of a higher price point.
What did you kind of come into market at?
We came into market, I think it was 315.
Okay.
So
it's not like your typical buyer, right? There's not a whole lot of people who are going to buy a house for like $3 million and so on.
So, you know, we sat and then sat and sat. And
how long were you guys sitting for?
I think it took us a year to unload the property.
Okay. So like after like going to market another year, and then you guys had to do like price reductions, or what's like your strategy?
We did price reductions, and you know, it got to a point where we held steady at a price, and you know, the interest rates I think had stabilized a little, and you know, we were finally able to find a family that.
What did you guys end up selling it for?
I think we ended up selling at 2.8, I believe it was.
Okay. Yeah.
So
that's what was the projected profit when you guys first bought it?
It was flopped. So I think we were supposed to profit 400,000, but we ended up losing 400.
So it's like $800,000 swing basically on just a few a few unlucky things and a few like a little bit just like overlooking a few things. So.
Yeah, I mean we went over budget, you know, but that wasn't the main factor.
Yeah. I feel like all projects go over budget. Like it's super rare to ever find a project that goes under budget. Like it just doesn't. And if you tell your contractor like, hey, this bid, they're not going to be like, oh, by the way, we saved like $10,000, so we'll pass it on to you, right? It's like that's never going to happen.
I'm trying to think. Maybe I had 1 or 2 deals in my life that ever went under budget, but the other 92 are probably over budget.
Yeah. I mean, and so even for us, like it's crazy because like we have the buffers right on top of it, but I swear, like, even with the buffer, it still like goes over budget. It's just crazy how that always happens. So.
It's so hard to predict, and you know, you try to use a past project as you know, like the mold.
Was it where the prices? I feel like we pay a premium as far as like renovation costs today. Was it always this expensive when you're starting out like 12 years ago?
It was always expensive, but definitely material costs have gone up, and labor is following suit. Where you know, everybody's wages with inflation have gone up, and you know, contractors are charging more now.
Yeah.
But you know, it was definitely cheaper, but it was relative.
So like prices at the time, so like it was like, oh, I got you. Yeah. What's like the average cost of like your renovations nowadays?
I'd say the average cost is probably around 170.
So these are like nicely done renovations, because I've seen some of your work and you do like really good work.
Yeah. So
are you the designer? Do you have like a designer, and how do you like design your houses?
I do all the designs for all my houses, and that's one of the things I'm passionate about. I love the design side. I love doing the layouts and doing that side of it. So I've never hired anybody to do the design or any of that, which, you know, maybe later in the future.
But if you like doing it, I feel like
I love doing it.
It's rewarding. So for when I first started, I feel like I'm like decent, like, you know, but like I don't put like a whole lot of effort or time into it. I'm just like, hey, this looks decent. Let's make it a kind of a blank slate, and then just let our stager work her magic. So most of the designs when I first started were they're like modern but very simple.
Right.
But recently we hired like our project manager, and she's a female.
Okay.
And she brings like some like bold ideas to like our project, you know, like, and I'm like, I don't agree with this, but I trust you, so like let's just see what happens. And so far it's been really good, just because she has just such a really good eye and just the creativity that she brings. And so, but all that to say is, I think having a creative mind or like a design really adds a lot of value to the houses when you're trying to sell them in the back end.
For sure. I am a big believer in the design, and you know, I eat, drink, and sleep real estate. So, yeah, at night it keeps me up at night. Sometimes I'm thinking of like ideas of what I can do, and wake up in the middle of the night, and I just start thinking of, oh, I should do this. And you know.
Do you have like a place to write it down, or what's the kind of your thought process behind that? Like,
I don't necessarily write it down, but I'll put it on my notes in my phone, or I'll jot it down, or you know, even my wife sometimes, like we're watching a movie and I'm like, you know, it might be like a horror movie and they're about to kill someone. I'm like, oh, that kitchen is super nice. She's like, that's what you're thinking about right now.
It's so funny. Like, it's like, as an investor, like you kind of get consumed with real estate where you just like, you dream about it, you think about it all the day. And so even when, like, it's funny, even when you're watching a horror movie, you're like, oh, that kitchen is nice. That's crazy. But I mean, I feel like I can relate to that, you know, like just when you go to places, like, so even after, cause like I had same thing, no real estate experience, no construction experience. But now when I go traveling or like I go to different like restaurants or hotels, I'm just looking at like how they design things or like the structure, or like I'm just curious, like, okay, how much did this cost? Like you look at Zero, I wonder what the story is behind this project. You know, it just that we're just in the world and thinking about it all the time.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly. I get a lot of my inspiration for some of the designs or whatnot. I do it in a restaurant. You're eating and like, oh, that's pretty sick. You know, I'll take a picture of it, or you know, you're watching a movie or a show and a super nice kitchen or design comes up. Stop. Take a picture of it. You know?
That's funny. I mean, like, so like you said, like you put it, like as soon as you come up with a good idea, you put it in your notes. What's like use like Apple Notes, or what's like the notes you use?
Yeah, just like the Apple Notes. Or taking pictures of it, or
I feel like, because I mean, like that's like a one thing I like, just inspiration in general. Like it's you never know when it's gonna pop up, but when it does pop up, you want to capture it, because a lot of times I'll have it inspiring. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. Then I don't write it down, and then later I'm like, oh, what was that? I knew it was a great idea, but I don't remember what it was. You know.
Well, that happens all the time too. You get too busy, or you just think of something, and then your phone rings, or someone sidetracks you, and I'm like, I just had an idea, but I kind of forgot what it was.
That's one of the things I think is challenging as an investor or as a real estate developer or whatever it is, where you have so many projects and so many things going on. How do you juggle like all the different kind of responsibilities and hats that you usually wear?
To be honest, it's not easy. I mean, and I can't tell you I have a tried and true system to do all of it, but you know, it all gets logged in here, and you got to write down what, like you said, pretty much all your thoughts, which don't always happen, and then you forget about things, and so it's a lot of, you know, note taking, but you know, a lot of it ends up because you get interrupted all the time.
Yeah. Because I mean, like, I just feel like sometimes you're so scatterbrained because you're focusing on like answering a phone call, then another phone call comes in, or like you're sending an email, then mid email, like so another phone call comes in, or you come with a great idea, then like you're constantly going to bunny trails like all day. I don't know if like you ever feel like that.
For sure, it's totally like that. And then you know, I dedicate 2 or 3 hours at the end of the day to empty everything from my brain and jot everything down and do all the paperwork side of it. And
so what does a typical day look like for you?
So usually I'm jumping between projects.
What time do you wake? Do you always wake up the same time in the morning? Is it different?
I usually wake up about 7.
Okay.
You know, try to get on the road about 8:30.
Okay. Do you have any like morning routine? Like you eat a special shake, or you meditate or anything?
I usually do like a protein shake in the morning. I have a outside area outside my house. Kind of like to, you know, drink my shake out there, drink my coffee, enjoy the morning view, and then, you know, get refreshed, get on the road and get going, and then you know, stopping into the different projects. Depending how far along we are on some of the projects, you know, going to pick up some of the design, whether it's tile, flooring.
So you're still like heavily involved in all the projects that you guys do. Like you're in like the day to day of like making sure things are moving forward, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, because I'm doing all the design on all the projects, I pretty much have to.
Because then the thing is, like, you're involved in design, but you're also involved in finding the deals, funding them, like selling them on the back. I mean, like there's a lot like paperwork, right? I mean, there's so much like things that are going on, like, but you're doing it all basically like as a like that. You're handling the whole shebang right now.
Unfortunately, I am. My assistant takes on some of the stuff, but I'm handling most of it. and it does get overwhelming at times, but I'm kind of used to it at this point, and my wife is like, how are you doing all this? Like I there's no way I could handle this, and I'm just like,
I feel like your capacity as a human expands as you keep stretching it, right? Like it's when you first start, like your capacity is maybe like this, then you're like, oh, you got too many things, and like your capacity expands to here, and then like you're constantly expanding to where you are now, where you're like the 100 deal, you probably have like I don't know how many you got going on right now, but a ton. But then like the Ikaika of 2010 wouldn't be able to handle the same load that Ikaika of 2024 is able to handle.
For sure, and it's almost like a muscle. You go in the gym and you can only bench press this much when you first start, but the more you get used to it, the more you work out, the more you expand yourself, the more you can take on. And I think as humans, we can take on a lot. We just mentally limit ourselves. I'm tired, and you tell yourself you're tired, and you
do you ever, like this happens to me all the time, like, oh, I'm tired, and like I feel like I don't want to work or do anymore. Like do you ever come across that, and how do you like solve that?
For sure. I'm a pretty good self-motivator, so you always have that devil on your shoulder telling you, go rest, you're tired, let this go home. But I try to push myself, and I'm pretty good at pushing myself and staying motivated. And seeing guys like you out there killing it, it helps with my motivation too.
That's actually true. Like when having seen, if you see other guys who are also doing cool things, then it makes you want to strive to do cool things too. I think when I was like before I was introduced to the world of real estate, I was around like my friends who are all like W-2 workers, and so I didn't feel inspired necessarily by my friends, but like now a lot of my friends like yourself, like guys like you inspire me. So like it gives me that little extra push like during the day where like, I gotta keep it with Ikaika, or like I want to like get to Ikaika's level, like so it is fun having friends who are also doing cool things alongside you.
Totally, because I see you guys doing it, and you're working on like 15 deals now, and I see that, and I'm like, Daniel's out there killing it. He can push himself to do it. A lot of it
is like social media magic. So like we it looks like we're doing a lot more than we actually do just because of social media. But
for sure. But I think having that like almost apple in front of you, it helps to keep you motivated as well too. You see other people that can do it. Why can't you do it too? Kind of mentality.
And the thing is, like, as what's cool is like you're. I mean, like, no offense, like not super special. Like you're a average, humble guy. Like you surf, you play golf. I mean, like you're good looking, but I mean, like you're a normal human being that just is crushing in life. And so I think it speaks to just like the capacity or the opportunity that's out there when it comes to real estate, because like guys like us who are just like normal, like humble guys, and we're able to do like some very cool things in the real estate space.
Yeah, I'm definitely pretty normal. I'm not overly smart. I stumble upon my words, as you can see. But, I'm motivated. I stay dedicated. I focus on what I'm good at. And just build off of that. So, I only probably know a few things in life. I know a lot about real estate. I know a lot about sports, and the rest of the space, I don't really waste my brain on.
That's another thing too. I think is when I started investing in real estate, I kind of got consumed and just like thought about it all day. I stopped listening to like as much music and like watching TV, and where I was just trying to learn and absorb and just fill my mind with real estate investing. I feel like that's a big part of being able to like maximize like the knowledge or the action, is just kind of like filtering out all of the distractions that might be coming your way.
Yeah. So, I mean, to be successful, I think you got to love what you do. And, yourself, other guys who are successful, I can see your guys' passion in real estate, and I absolutely love it. So I focus on it too much, probably. And it helps me to get to where I'm at. It is just having that drive, being able to wake up every day and not feel like, oh damn, I got to go to work today. I actually look forward. I'm like, yes, I got to go see the progress on this project, or
I feel like one of the funnest things though is seeing the progress, or like the before and afters, or when you can see the transformation. I feel like that's super rewarding just as an investor. It just something, you get that dopamine hit, like when you see like the final result. So
and not everybody gets to see the before and afters, but being able to see something turn into what is a crappy property, and you get to turn into this beautiful thing that that people love. It's super rewarding. I feel like, and it motivates you to do it on the next one and the next one. But after a while, it does get tiring, and it is a lot of work. You're more hands-on than with rental properties
what are
other types of investing.
What's kind of like you've done so much so far in your career. What are kind of like your goals, or where do you want to take this thing?
So I've been slowly building my rental portfolio, which, is the end goal.
It's not easy. Is it all in Hawaii, all the rentals?
I only have 2 in Hawaii. Most of them are in the mainland. It's difficult to find ones.
I was going to say, like, building a rental portfolio in Hawaii is like no joke, man. So.
So that is difficult. But the flipping thing, I want to do it probably for another 10 years. The goal is, and kind of always has been going forward, is, maybe doing 20 to 30 deals a year. For me, that's, I don't think I want to go
kill yourself or stress yourself out. But I mean, like 20 to 30 with just you that's insane. Like it's
enough already.
I'm just like thinking about like how much work, especially because you're doing the whole process. Like to me, I would not be able to handle 20 to 30. Like that's crazy. That's super crazy.
Yeah. So to keep your health, I mean, that's about as much as you can take.
Do you ever get like stressed out by like any of this stuff? I mean,
every day, but.
What's like what are the things that stress you out? Is it the money? Is it the project managers? Like, is it the people? What's like the thing that you always is like the most difficult?
Well, I mean, flipping, it's pretty much problem solving, and then it gets stressful when you have like multiple projects going on, and then you're getting phone calls like left and right, problem, and sometimes it gets overwhelming. You miss having those good phone calls, like like, oh no, my phone's ringing now. What? So that can get a little overwhelming, especially problem equals money. So now it's going to cost more.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Problem equals money and time, right? It's like how much time and how much money is this going to cost me? And so one of the things recently is we had like a few different fires that were going on in our company we're trying to put out. And so like I was like super stressed out, man. I was like, oh man, how am I going to solve this? But it's testament to like our team jumped in and they're like, hey, how can we help and like make this like get this over the finish line? And so like having the team like or people around you share the burden or the problems was like super helpful. Even like my wife was like, you can do it. I mean, like just even the encouragement from like your wife, like it seemed like silly, but then like when you're in the middle of it and you're like stressed out, the little bit of encouragement or the people who are like kind of like sharing the burden with you is like it's also helpful.
Yeah. And that is something that is probably a future goal too.
Well, I mean, you got project managers. I mean, you have your wife too and stuff. It's like that. But if you ever want like any help, dude, I mean, like we'd love to like be a resource to you. Like it's a small community in Hawaii. Like, and I know you guys would do the same for us. And so sometimes like we feel like we're scared to reach out. But I mean, if you're listening to this, if you got some issues, like me and Ikaika, I mean, why don't I mean, answer for you, but I'm sure you're like down to just help people who are like in like kind of different difficult situations, especially real estate, right? So
and I love that about the real estate community. Like everybody's wants to help each other, and everybody's super cool, nice people, and I appreciate you reaching out and
I think when I first started like investing, I thought like rich people were like a-holes or like they're greedy. That was just like my impression because like that was just what I think I saw in the news or when you watch like the TV shows, the rich real estate guys trying to take over like the little guys' things and like make a lot of money. And so that was just my impression of like people who had money.
Right.
But then as I kind of progressed through like the investing and like the entrepreneur journey, all the guys who I met who are very successful, they're like the most genuine and generous guys. Like yourself, I mean, all the other investors here in Hawaii, they're so generous and like it's crazy to be on this side of the coin.
Yeah, and I feel like most of the guys that are at least in Hawaii that are doing well in real estate investing, they've come from like humble beginnings and humble roots, and for me that's a big part of it. I don't want money to change me. I want to stay the same person that I've always been, and I don't want to become a different person just because I've made money or I'm above everybody else. And I've never wanted to be that person, and you know, I strive not to be.
Yeah.
But
is there ever a challenge just because like because you've had so much success? I feel sometimes people might look at you differently or see, like they might treat you differently because you're so successful. Do you ever feel like a challenge like that?
You know, that's why I don't necessarily bring up money too often with people or tell people what I make or whatnot, because I don't want people to view me differently. And I feel like once people know what you make or you're doing this, they're gonna view you differently.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's inevitable, you know, I think, but you know, I prefer that.
Just chill.
I don't want that. Yeah.
No, I mean, I really appreciate that about you. You're so humble. You're so like, I mean, you're so laid back, but in like, and in like normal life, but then in the business world, you're just like killing it. I just love that. You know, it's so cool.
Appreciate that.
What is kind of like your maybe like in your current business? Is there something where you say like is like you're really good at, or like what do you think has kind of propelled you to get to the point where you are now? You know, like is there something in particular, whether it's your like a special advantage you had or like a skill set that's like basically the question is, how can somebody else duplicate like the success? Like what do they need in order to accomplish this?
I mean, the main thing you need is to be able to analyze deals. So if you can't analyze a deal and figure out, you know, what you need to be at to make this profitable, you're going to get in big trouble. So, I mean, that's the first thing. I mean, my wife always tells me, you know, like that I don't know how you can see this vision. So, I mean, I think, you know, being able to see a property and what it can become. Like right when I step in, I can kind of see what it will look like when it's done. So
you have the HCTV like automatic things like the malls are moving and you're
and you know, I'm explaining to my wife and she's like, "What are you talking about?"
Bathroom's gonna be here. We got the kitchen and then the islands or like but it's all like all walls and boarded up right now.
So I mean, I think, you know, in a sense, I'm pretty decent at that. Being able to analyze the deals, you know, that's the main things that you need. I think in this business.
Do you ever see anybody like struggle with analyzing or get it wrong when it comes to analyzing deals?
Well, that's why I never trust realtors, because I feel like they always get it wrong. They send me these deals and I'm like, I'll do my analysis on it.
I mean, I feel like I've had the same experience, and like, no offense to realtors, because I think they just look at things with rosy colored glasses, right? Like they're not intentionally trying to give you like a bad numbers, but like it's like they're viewing it from like their world, and like I think like this is what they're seeing the potential of it, right? But then without like there's always a range where there's like here's the highest potential, but here's also the lowest potential, and usually the truth is somewhere in between there.
Right.
So like if you're just getting all the highest potential, then like you're like it's high risk because like you think you can sell it for a lot more than actually like that it might be reasonable.
Right. And you know, I think all the hidden costs within, a lot of times realtors, you know, may not factor in holding costs. They underprice construction costs. Sometimes they may not figure in their own commissions.
No, I mean, and that's a big thing. When you watch these shows on HGTV, like they'll break down the numbers. And it's like, oh, we bought it for $1 million, we put in 200,000, and we sold it for 1.4, we made $200,000. I'm like, that does not add up. You know, whenever I watch like these flipping shows,
for sure.
And then I think, but that's like normal people too as well, when they're like looking at investing or like real estate investing, they just look at those large numbers and they don't realize the real estate commissions, closing costs, holding costs, and like just like the hidden costs in construction, because there's a contractor bid, then sometimes like all the materials you gotta supply, or the appliances, right? And there's the landscaping. Maybe didn't like there's all these extra things that like the original bid was like say 100,000, but like after factoring all these other things, it comes into like 150. And so but it's just people need to realize that like there's all these other things involved, and so when you're trying to buy a deal, like factor that into your numbers when you're analyzing it.
And that's something you definitely got to learn as you go, and you got to trial and error with your contractors too. You'll probably in your career go through at least 5-10 different contractors, and you know, once you find those good ones, you kind of want to stay with them and keep them busy.
But I mean, it's also a challenge too, because like in the past we worked with different contractors, and like when they first started working for us, they're like amazing. Like, you know, they're like work so hard, and like it was like everything was like on budget, great communication. Then I don't know what it is, but I feel like over time something just the workmanship goes down, or like just like I mean, that's just human nature maybe, like, you know, and so just things start to go a little more expensive, things start to take a little bit longer, and just like a slow fade until it's like, guys, like we're not hitting our numbers. We gotta like either fix this or we're gonna have to find another contractor. So.
I feel that a lot of times, you know, with the contractors too, they see you're making money in the deal, so they're like, "Oh, no, where you're making money? We want to make a little bit more money too, too." So they start upping their cost.
No, I definitely. I mean, and I think that's a challenge in just human nature in general. So whether it's like you're an investor, whether you're a realtor, whether like you're a wholesaler, like whenever you're seeing what other people are making on a project, then you almost either get FOMO or like you feel like you're more entitled to a piece of what's involved, right? And so, I mean, it's just like an interesting fact of life, I feel. So,
but you know, for the contractor, and I was telling him, I was like, you know, your money is guaranteed. My money is not guaranteed. As you've seen, we've taken losses, we've had wins, but.
So like when we lose money, we're not gonna you're not gonna we're gonna like you're not gonna give me back the money I gave you for the job, right? So that's true.
So just kind of, you know, they got to see it in the same perspective that we see it too.
No, definitely. So somebody who's just starting out in real estate and like they want to get started in flipping, what do you think like their first step should be?
You know, first step is to begin analyzing deals. So whether you need to bring contractors in just to practice, and a lot of contractors won't want to come in and give bids because it's a waste of their time too, unless you have it under escrow. But you know, getting bids, getting used to seeing what contractors' numbers are, you know, networking with other investors is super helpful. I feel, especially if you're brand new, because then even if you're just interning with them or just shadowing. And you can provide.
Would you ever take on any interns? Is that something you'd be willing to do?
My current assistant started as an intern.
Okay.
And then, you know, I promoted to an assistant.
Nice.
But to a degree, yes. You know,
what are your thoughts on like interns or someone shadowing you?
I think it's great. You know, I don't have necessarily a program for an intern, so I just worry I'm not going to provide enough value for them. But you know, it's nice to have them around, and if that's what they want is to shadow and see the day-to-day goings of a real estate business, then it's nice to have them. But you know, you only can have so many people shadowing you at once. So,
but I feel like that's super valuable. Like if you have the opportunity to shadow a guy like yourself, like when I was first starting, I would have loved to just like shadow like a guy like, you know. So actually when I first started, I was like, how can I like get around people who are doing cool things? And so I met Corey Namoto, and I was like, hey, how can I provide value to you? So I tried to help him on the software side, because that's where I came from, just so I could get around, like ask him questions and like how things, because there's such a huge gap to like learn and like figure out when you first starting, and it seems super scary, and it is super scary. But now it's just like normal for us, right? Because like you do it every day, or once you've done it enough. But like that very beginning, just getting over like that fear and like that initial information like deficit, I feel like that's such a hard part of just getting started.
For sure. And I agree. And for myself too, it would have been super beneficial if I could have shadowed someone like yourself, and you know, it takes away a little of that learning curve, and you have someone that you can bounce stuff off of, and that can kind of show you the ropes, and you don't have to take as many you know, hits that you may have if you're trying to do everything on your own.
Yeah.
But
no, definitely.
On the other hand, you know, that's how I learned too. Is
sometimes taking the bumps and the bruises are like, is actually, as long as it doesn't sink you, I think that's a big thing. Because as long as you're able to recover from them, like they're great learning lessons.
For sure.
Well, if people want to reach out to you, where can they find you, Kikes?
They can find me on Facebook or Instagram. So Facebook, search Ikaika Ing. Instagram, Cruising 808 with a Z, CRUZING 808.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate you.